Hello summoners and welcome to another ProGuides video. My name is Christoph and in this episode, we're going to be talking about underrated picks. In this series, we cover picks that are underplayed or who we consider sleeper OP. So stay tuned because we're covering champions for every role. I also want to introduce our newest host, who is Nathan Ng. I'm sure you guys heard him in the last couple videos. He is awesome, super funny, and we're happy to have him on the team. And as always, for our question of the day, what kind of items do you think would make League more interesting? Don't worry about the balance too much, this is just for fun. Like in TFT, I think it'd definitely spice things up if we had an item that could make spells critically strike. While it'd be a balancing nightmare, it'd definitely give me some more incentive to play more mages. And if you guys are the ones who are getting ganked in your own lane, constantly demolished, then we've got something for you. ProGuides is the #1 proven way to quickly help you level up your League of Legends skills. Whether you're looking for tier lists, champion guides, coaching, or courses from your favorite pro players, ProGuides is where you'll find them. Go click that link below, find yourself a challenger coach, and start winning more games. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link and start improving right now. Now that being said, let's get started with the video. Starting off with the top lane, we have Nocturne. He's seen a surge in popularity recently, but is still one of the least played top laners in the game. As a champion typically resigned to the jungle, it's fair to say that Nocturne as a solo laner is still growing onto players. His incredible sustain from his passive and his high damage output allow him to bully out many opponents during the laning phase. Nocturne gains bonus AD from his Q, bonus attack speed from his W, and a point-and-click CC from his E. He has all the tools necessary to win brawls against his opponents, allowing him to take lane priority against many of them. In terms of his weaknesses, he clearly has very little immobility, but at least he has a spell shield to grant him some semblance of safety. In spite of its nerfs, Sanguine Blade is still a powerful split-pushing item that further increases Nocturne's presence in the side lane. It's extremely difficult to beat Nocturne in a 1v1 because of all the bonus stats he receives. And Sanguine Blade is the final nail in the coffin. While enemies can play safe, concede, and allow Nocturne to push, this still creates issues since he'll then be able to roam elsewhere and use his ultimate to hard engage. Our next underrated pick in the top lane is going to be Shen. He's a solid laner who can win or go even against a lot of champions. The global pressure Shen provides is extremely impactful even in a solo queue environment. If you're a scrappy player who likes to get involved in fights, then Shen is definitely a champion you can take advantage of. Whether you're split pushing or not, you'll always be a click away from helping out a teammate or turning the tides of a battle in a team fight. Another thing that people need to remember about him is that Shen is one of the few wardens in the game who can directly protect his allies from basic attacks. Shen's W has a very unique property that allows any of his allies standing within it to dodge basic attacks from enemies. This can come in handy during teamfights, especially when ranged champions are prevalent on the enemy team. Especially after completing some items, Shen has solid wave clear to supplement his kit, making him a split push threat that's difficult to ignore. Make sure to take a look at the screen one more time to see those top lane builds again. And now, let's move on to the jungle. First up, we have the friend of the forest, Ivern. Although he's very unique, many players tend to stray away from his support-savvy playstyle that strikes many as boring and uninteractive. However, it's definitely a mistake to write Ivern off simply because he doesn't seem like a carry-type champion. He saw plenty of success last patch with a 52% win rate and is stomping his games to kick off the patch. While his win rate will likely level out to a similar level as last patch, it's undeniable that players are definitely finding success with him. Honestly, a lot of this is due to the fact that he is underrated and underplayed. So many players struggle to play against this oddball champion, especially in the jungle where he turns the jungle game upside down. Ivern can steal camps away within seconds, and junglers have to constantly consider all the oddball paths Ivern can opt to take in order to impede his opponents. Ivern adds an extra layer of utility and brings some extra shielding for his team comp. In terms of front-to-back team fighting, he's actually one of the best champions to lock in because he can continue to shield and peel for his carries, ensuring their survival and enabling them to maximize their damage output. Your goal as Ivern is to give the enemy jungler a hard time while also being a huge nuisance in the later stages of the game with your utility. Next up is a more brawly pick, Dr. Mundo. While we've mentioned him across various series, Dr. Mundo definitely doesn't get the amount of play and recognition he deserves. For how simple he is, Mundo is extremely effective because of his incredible scaling and very fast jungle clear. One of the reasons he might not be a popular pick, though, is that he can't do much against a Master Yi, who will free farm him and then cut him down. So whenever you want to play Dr. Mundo, just ban Master Yi. Trust me, you will thank me later. All the runes you can take on him synergize so well, and that's part of why Mundo is so strong. He really milks every last rune. So basically, the mandatory runes are Tenacity alongside Approach Velocity, as these will make him so much better. Even if you end up building Ninja Tabby in place of Mercury Treads, the extra Tenacity will allow Mundo to run down his opponents, and Approach Velocity makes running away nothing but a pipe dream for his enemies. If the game stalls out, which it usually does in lower elos, Mundo players will find themselves with enough money to finish most of his core items. From there, they can wreak havoc as Mundo deals insane amounts of damage and is so tanky, which makes him really hard to stop. While his power might not be as suited for higher elos, he still does have a place since he can clear the jungle alongside neutral objectives rather quickly. Check out those jungle builds one more time on the screen as we move on to the mid lane. In the mid lane, we're throwing in Rumble. Most Rumble players are still going off about how he's a better mid laner than a top laner, and the stats stand by their side. Rumble's mid lane statistics have been consistently insane, practically never dipping below 50% in the past several months, and usually hovering around 52 to 53%. He's simply too strong in the mid lane because he doesn't rely on mana and has oppressive trading patterns that minimize the damage he takes, while simultaneously dealing plenty to his enemies. On top of this, Rumble has pretty much everything you want from a mid laner. No reliance on mana, great wave clear, strong 2v2 skirmishing, a lot of winning matchups, and excellent roaming. With the increased reliance on dragons in the preseason, Rumble has been finding a lot of success as his insane teamfighting results in some more security in terms of objective control. The areas near the Dragon Pit are great spots for Rumble to place his equalizer and scorch his enemies to a crisp. Another underrated pick in the mid lane is going to be Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath's laning is rather powerful because it's extremely difficult to knock him out of lane. Due to the sustain from his passive and innate tankiness from his ultimate, having kill pressure on Cho'Gath is pretty rare. Take note of his build. We've talked about glacial augment builds on several champions, and Cho'Gath is one who can take advantage of it. It's a very effective tool for carrying solo queue games because you can make pick after pick to snowball games and absolutely crush your opponents. Whenever you land Hextech GLP or Twin Shadows on an enemy champion, you have a very easy follow-up with your Q Rupture, meaning that any enemies caught by previous slows will either die or have to burn their flash. As the game progresses and Cho'Gath finishes more items, he becomes a bigger and bigger threat. With enough AP, a full combo becomes enough to basically 100 to 0 nearly any carry. With the burst from Cho'Gath's true damage ultimate, it becomes a living nightmare for any enemy who gets caught out by a Rupture. Here are those mid lane builds one more time for you guys as we talk about bot laners next. Stepping away from the typical niche of a marksman, we're mentioning Cassiopeia as our first bot lane pick. While typically seen as a mid laner, bottom lane Cassiopeia isn't something unheard of. In spite of nerfs to Conqueror, she's still seeing a decent amount of success with it because of how effectively she can stack it up and take advantage of bonus AP. A lot of bot laners struggle to lane versus Cassiopeia because of her oppressive all-in, especially because of the new Conqueror. Cassiopeia can win pretty much any extended duel in the bottom lane. Get hit by 1 Q or CC from Cassiopeia's support, and you're about to take a lot of damage and honestly likely die. As a side effect of Cassiopeia taking Conqueror, she gains even more power through access to the Tenacity rune. Cassiopeia is unique in the fact that she doesn't need to build boots. This opens up another item slot, allowing Cassiopeia to opt into one of the tankiest builds a mage can take. With some extra health, she can better take advantage of Tenacity, since it'll make it even harder for opponents to take her out of the picture. Cassiopeia is a ticking time bomb as she does incredible damage and provides plenty of utility. Back into the marksman side of things, our underrated pick goes to Twitch. While known for his incredible late game, Twitch's stealth can lead to some cheeky plays during the early to mid game as well. He's also a pretty snowbally laner if he can manage to pick up some early kills as a result of his ability to pop out of the shadows. Especially against opponents who don't have much experience against him, Twitch players can capitalize on the fact that they can use their stealth to constantly apply kill pressure. Another thing that makes Twitch a solid pick is his ability to roam onto the mid lane with his stealth. After pushing in big waves, it's an option to try and pick up a kill mid instead of recalling or sitting in lane doing nothing. If his enemies can't shut him down, Twitch becomes an annoying threat in the late game because his ultimate provides him insane attack range and piercing bolts. Overall, this means that Twitch hard carries teamfights, and his stealth instead serves to make it incredibly difficult for his enemies to find a successful flank onto him. That wraps it up for bot laners, so check out those builds one more time as we finish up with supports. He's fabulous, and that's why we love him. Our first underrated support is going to be none other than Taric. Taric is finding unprecedented amounts of success at the moment, especially against aggressive Aftershock supports. Most players know that Taric is one of the best late-game supports in the game because his ultimate provides invulnerability for his team. On top of this, the sustain and crowd control he brings to the table isn't something to scoff at either. Aftershock received a couple of changes this preseason, making it a little weaker early on, but giving it a shorter cooldown to compensate. This is great for Taric since he protects his allies while also dealing great damage. Picking Taric basically nullifies a lot of these picks because he does two things. One, he makes it so his lane partner is much harder to kill, and two, he can kill his enemies if they get a little reckless. Taric's passive, Bravado, empowers his next two auto attacks after casting a spell, allowing him to smack his opponents into the ground if they try to ignore him. The damage is something a lot of players don't expect, so you'll definitely want to pick Taric up if you like a mix of brawling and utility. Finally, we're going to throw in another support pick, and that is going to be Zilean. Zilean's ultimate is another powerful late-game tool that can essentially provide Guardian Angel's passive to an ally. The reason Zilean alongside Taric are heavily underrated at the moment is that players forget how well they respond to this current meta. There are so many divers and assassins in the mix right now, and both of these champions' ultimates hard counter them. What differentiates Zilean from Taric is the type of utility that he can provide for his team otherwise. Zilean can speed up his allies significantly, or instead slow down any enemies caught out of position to make picks on them. His double bombs can provide a ton of zone control in teamfights, especially in the jungle as well. At the end of the day, it's more of a team composition issue for Zilean, as he works best as a pick if his teammates can utilize his speed buffs pretty well. Champions like Hecarim and Singed, who can really utilize Zilean's E, bring the most out of him. And that's it for supports. Here are the support builds one more time, guys. Check them out on the screen. Alright, now that concludes this episode of Underrated Picks. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate all the support you guys are giving us, and we managed to hit 400k subscribers. We're so happy about that. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. If you guys are interested in getting better at League of Legends this season, then as always, check out the link below. That's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in your next few games, and I'll see you on the Rift.